Hello and welcome to another video from Between the Ropes TV. Joined by myself, Ray, and Josh. Josh, how are you doing, pal?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Finally, we've got a bit more of a positive preview to go over.
Yes, yeah, we've got the Riakporhe fight against Turchi, the Italian. Riakporhe, he's starting to get a bit of momentum in now in his career. Josh, how do you see this fight going? Because his opponent's got a pretty decent record, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. Fabio Turchi, obviously former European champion. He's coming into this 20-1 with the 14 stoppages. So, he's got some power to what he's doing as well.
Mm.
I mean, the sole loss, it's worth mentioning in fairness, lost to Tommy McCarthy back in 2019. So it was pre-pandemic.
Good operator.
Yeah, very good operator. But, 3 wins since against like Bregian, who obviously British fans will know he's been in with some names. I mean, for me personally, I just think Riakporhe, he's coming into this. It's his 4th fight in 8-9 months since he's sort of 2 years off. And Sky, they've got that powerful machine around them, haven't they? And they've done a really good job of building like a mystique and a sort of aura around Richard Riakporhe. And for me, I'm quite excited about this fight. I was a bit skeptical when he announced he'd signed with Boxer and he was going to be coming back.
Why was that?
Just 2 years out, and the timing of the layoff was a bit bizarre as well, wasn't it? Because he sort of cleaned up domestically, beaten billam-smith, beaten Jack Massey, who have both seriously improved and gone on to win European and IBO world titles. And it was just a little bit of strange timing. I know circumstances. We've talked about that, so we won't go over it again. But I don't know. I was a bit skeptical. Can he come and do it? And also, it was quite interesting. This is, massive credit to Sky and Boxer how they've matched him since he came back, because I thought that was a very tough. Those first 2 or 3 fights back, I always thought it was going to be very tough to match him well enough to get fans interested, well enough to test him, but also not too deep.
They don't want to slip up straight away.
Exactly. So massive respect to Riakporhe himself and Sky and Boxer for how they've managed that process. Because on Saturday now, I'm excited about Richard Riakporhe. I mean, this fight personally, Turchi's a good operator, and it's another, we've talked about in separate videos about, gently building up. It's a world title eliminator, and he's a good operator, but I only see one winner. I genuinely see Riakporhe winning by stoppage. That dynamite power that he's got, and now he's got rid of the ring rust and it's all back. I just see him winning. How about you?
Well, I see him absolutely obliterating Fabio Turchi. I really, really do. I think the main thing for Riakporhe was the inactivity, and we've mentioned the reasons why on previous discussions on this channel. But for me, getting himself back active, we can still see that power's there. He's still got that raw talent, but he's polishing it a bit. And I think he's going to become a real star for Boxer. And that was the one thing I wanted to pick your brains on, because he wins this, he puts himself right in the mix for a world title shot, doesn't he? So do you think, essentially, because Boxer don't have, unlike the Zone and they knew, but they've had their sort of year, haven't they? Their feel out year. They're going into sort of like the second year. Do you think if you were Ben Shalom, do you push him now for the big boys in the Cruiserweight division, or do you still give him a few of those gradual step ups, because there's still some tasty looking Eastern Europeans? I'm looking at the guy that Lawrence Okoli fought, Glavaki, the Polish lad, who was tough, and it took a while for Lawrence to feel him out and stop him, I think, in the 5th or 6th round. Do you put him in with people like that to see, look, this is how he's done against Lawrence Okoli's previous opponents, and build up a potential super fight there? Or do you think, actually, this kid's ready, put him straight in? It's a tricky one.
It's tricky because on 2 reasons, really. He's 32 years old now. So time's not on his side, but he hasn't got, he's not got a year or 2 to think, I can just take a few more of these fights. He needs, now's his prime, which, in fairness, off his last performance, and I think we'll see another good performance this weekend. I think you're looking at, if he's in his prime now, you need to just roll the dice. We keep talking about that. And the other thing is that I think, a lot's been talked about the Riakporhe-Okoli fight. You don't want Okoli going to heavyweight and that slipping away from him.
Yeah.
So that's the concern for me. And I'm going to be really controversial. For me, if you're going to keep him away from the, world title scene, partially anyway, with what I'm about to say, I'd love to see a billam-smith rematch for a European title. I think that's a seriously entertaining fight. And then we've had him on this channel, Jack Massey. I'd love to see him back him in, that's for the IBO world title. If that fight could be made, that's another fight I'd love to see. Both have improved massively. And this is probably the issue with his layoff as well, to be fair, because he's not improved, but you know what I mean? He's, if anything, gone slightly stale, and he's improving now and he's showing what he's about. But Massey and billam-smith have improved tenfold. So they're two fights I'd love to see, or either one. And then if he came through that, then I'd be like, right, now you chuck him in with a world title.
I think you're going down the same way I was thinking, because I know he's had those 2 wins. He's got a pretty decent resume on British level, hasn't he? We can go through that. But I think for me, the 2 years out the ring, because boxing's such essentially a short career, it's kind of, even though he's beaten them, he's kind of slipped down the rankings, if that makes sense. So I think he probably has unfinished business at British level. Don't forget, there's people like Isaac Chamberlain still knocking around. So there's still a few bits of business that would make sense, even from a financial point of view, because the Chris billam-smith fight is going to be for a decent payday. So there's still options there for him. But can you see him being made to be boxer's biggest star on a platform? Because there's not many, and they seem to be really pushing him, don't they?
Yeah, I think it's almost a case of unintentionally. Yeah, obviously, when they announced the start of their stable, it seemed to be a lot about Chris Eubank Jr., didn't it? And pushing him. Yeah. And then I think with his performances, and Eubank Jr., in fairness, hasn't been active still. Yeah, the Williams fight was bizarre, but obviously we've been over that. I think Richard Riakporhe, I think you're right. I think he's become the sort of standout candidate. And, with how active he's been, which that was another issue for Sky, wasn't it? We talked about that when they launched their stable. Their initial schedule was really impressive. But then it's like, what then for the next 3 months? Because obviously fighters go off rest, then they've got to have another camp before another fight. Whereas in fairness to Richard Riakporhe, with this being his 4th fight in like 8-9 months, I know we won't keep up that level of activity, but he's given them consistent nights, hasn't he? Which has probably helped him build, to be fair, which obviously we've not seen that same. Eubanks fought twice on there, hasn't he? Fought last November. It was rearranged in Newcastle.
That's right, he fought in Newcastle, yeah.
And then obviously he had the Williams fight, and then it's sort of all gone a little bit quiet again, apart from him calling out
Kell Brook. yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, do you think Riakporhe can go all the way?
I do. If he's managed correctly, I do. But I think this is critical, not just the manner of the victory. I'm pretty confident he does a job, but how to match him next, because the cruiserweight division isn't exactly filled with talent. You've got Bradis, McCarbu, Lawrence Akoli. And then you've got some good gatekeepers. You've got some people stepped up from light heavy, Balu Jack, Kovalev, if those guys are going to hang around there. And then it's pretty much, you've got some tough people there, but I wouldn't call them world level. And as good as Riakporhe is, as promising as he is, even at his age, he's still a baby if you look at the amount of fights he's had. I like to see him against those people that are class is tough. I want to see him do it properly, because once you're up there, the levels in quality, the difference between like say Bradis, it was up there against Usyk. Let's get that right. And Riakporhe at the minute is vast, and he needs to sort of like gradually build that to me. Maybe I think he's got enough time to take 2 fights before he gets to world level. But if he does that properly, I'm confident he's a world champion in the making. He's got all the tools.
So I was going to say, slight, not curveball, but if you were going to chuck him in with a world champion now, who would you pick? Because I'll be honest, for me, it'd be McCarbu, and I think he'd beat McCarbu now, I'll be honest. It's not an easy night's work, but I'd back him. We saw, and I know it was a few years ago now, but we saw Bellew pressure him, get to him, and McCarbu didn't like it. And then when he got landed on, obviously we know what happened. And I just think if Riakporhe fought the same way and he's got the size, the strength, and the sort of natural attributes to do so, I think you just get the same result. So I think that would be his best result. And then it makes the Okoli fight 10 times bigger, doesn't it? Because it's a unification all of a sudden.
It does, because he's a big name. He's a big name, but Makabu's quite dangerous. He caught Bellew, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he caught him. He flown him. And I think for me, it would probably be Lawrence Okoli, because he's the one that lacks the experience that the other two have. And I think Makabu's got that experience. Makabu, I see your point, because he's smaller than Okoli and Bradis. But I think though it's easier to say who will avoid, and that would be Bradis. I think Bradis is the best out of them.
I think he's last,
I just think it's a mix. It's 50-50 between the two, and I can see the arguments both ways between Makabu and Okoli. But I'll go for Okoli just because I think experience-wise, he's not as vast experienced as Bradis and Makabu, and he's probably got a better chance. But whichever way, I mean, it's definitely an interesting ride for Richard Riakporhe, and it's going to be very interesting come Saturday night, isn't it? But another fight that's caught our eye is Zach Chili's coming back, and you know, it's looking interesting for him now, isn't he? Because there was talk of him even going for a Zach Parker fight, wasn't there, at some point?
Yeah, there was. I mean, he's in with Jermaine Brown for the English super middle title. And to be fair, Jermaine Brown, he's had a few fights now on the Sky Boxer platform. Gradually impressive. I was quite impressed with Zach Chelli last time out, although I did think when he didn't land the power shots, it was a late notice step in. I can't remember the guy's name, so apologies for that. It was like when he landed and the guy didn't bowl over. There was almost a lack of a plan B, but he ground it out. He got a cut, ground out the win. So that's definitely one to look out for. And, you know, I'd probably pick Zach Chelli for the win now. I think he'll bit of momentum, got his ring rust off last time out. I'm picking him for the win, but it's definitely one to watch out for.
Yeah, and there's some big domestic fights for him. There's definitely some big domestic fights for him, and you know, it's whether or not he wants to keep one eye on the British title fight between Mark Heffron and Lennox Clark, or does he want to does he think actually I want to keep an eye on? I'm not too sure whether Zach Parker and Andre will ever get that rescheduled. It looks as though Andre, when he recovers from injury, he may go on to something else. But Zach Chelli, this is an opportunity for him because essentially, I know there's a big super middleweight fight between you-know-who and Golovkin in September, but those belts at some point are going to break up. So Zach Chelli's probably thinking, I want to divert myself to getting ranked.
If you think, we could very easily see those super middleweight world titles get broken up at the end of this year, because Canelo obviously just fought, but at light heavy.
Yeah.
I suppose it would be a voluntary defense, the Golovkin fight. Obviously, I'm not questioning the validity of Golovkin as a challenger, obviously. Yeah. But, you know, and then they're saying the Bivol fight next May. So, you know, it would have been 18 months without a super middleweight mandatory. Well, 20 months really, because November, wasn't it, the plant fight? So we may see come Christmas, those belts get fragmented once Canelo decides what, you know, if he's going back to light heavy. So I think you're right. I think it's a very interesting times at super middleweight, and in a division that's gone a little bit stale, arguably, the last sort of few months. It could be, you know, like the touch paper.
Yeah, it could be. And also, it's a little bit more intriguing now that a certain Billy Joe Saunders I've been seeing on Instagram, he's apparently back in training. So that could be another interesting fight further down the line. But I think we're both agreed Zach Chelli's got to do the business to get the fans behind him, because he's still relatively unknown to the hardcore fans that seem to know how he is. But as you rightly said, Josh, and hit the nail on the head once again, Sky have got that platform with the casual fans. And if there's any platform for Zach Chelli it looks spectacular on, it's definitely this one. Guys, we'll wrap it up there for tonight. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe at the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.